millions of people remember their faces from the golden age of American television. The bumbling sailor in the white hat, the gruff skipper with the ready slap, the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, the professor, and the girl next door who somehow became the one everyone remembered longest. For 3 seasons on CBS, from September 15, 1964 to April 17, 1967, 7 castaways on a deserted Pacific island defined a kind of American innocence that the decade outside the show was systematically dismantling. Gilligan's Island was not supposed to be a cultural monument. Critics despised it. Network executives canceled it without warning. The cast found out from the newspapers, and then syndication happened, and the show that everyone dismissed as disposable turned out to be the one that nobody forgot. Today, 6 of the 7 original castaways are gone. The last one standing is 92 years old and teaching 2nd graders to read in a Manhattan public school. This is where they all ended up. Number 1 is Bob Denver, who put on a white sailor hat in 1964 and never quite took it off. He was born Robert Osborne Denver on January 9, 1935 in New Rochelle, New York, raised in Brownwood, Texas, and later Long Beach, California. He graduated from Loyola University with a degree in political science, coached physical education, and taught mathematics and history at Corpus Christi Catholic Elementary School in Pacific Palisades before his sister, a secretary on a television production lot, got him an audition for The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis in 1958. He was supposed to be a teacher. He became Maynard G. Krebs instead, the beatnik friend whose involuntary shudder at the word work made him one of the defining comic characters of early American television. Hanna-Barbera watched Maynard closely. When they created Scooby-Doo in 1969, Shaggy was their direct homage. What most viewers never knew about Gilligan is the quality of the man underneath the hat. Denver was, by every account from every person who worked with him, the opposite of his character. Shy, intellectual, well-read, generous to everyone on the call sheet. When CBS's contract structure excluded Russell Johnson and Dawn Wells from the opening credits and theme song, listing them only as "and the rest," Denver refused to accept it. He renegotiated his own contract specifically to gain the leverage to add them. Both names appeared in the season 2 credits. Wells did not learn of Denver's advocacy until 1995. Johnson acknowledged it publicly for the rest of his life. The cancellation came without ceremony. In April 1967, CBS canceled Gilligan's Island at the end of its 3rd season to clear a primetime slot for Gunsmoke, a show that had itself been scheduled for cancellation but was rescued at the last moment after CBS president Bill Paley's wife lobbied for it. Creator Sherwood Schwartz had been explicitly assured by network executives that the show had been renewed for a 4th season. Cast members had made financial commitments on that assurance. The cancellation call reached each of them separately. Denver said for years that he had learned about it from a newspaper. After the show, Denver spent the next 4 decades being recognized everywhere as the man who couldn't get off the island. He appeared in reunion TV movies in 1978, 1979, and 1981. He ran a small FM radio station, WGAG-LP, out of Princeton, West Virginia, an oldies format that he and his wife Dreama operated together. He made personal appearances in costume. He worked the Make-A-Wish Foundation circuit in West Virginia. He was, by the standard measure of Hollywood success, a man whose biggest achievement was behind him. By the standard measure of a human life, he was someone who spent 40 years being kind to people who wanted a piece of his most famous moment and never complained about any of it. In May 2005, Denver underwent quadruple heart bypass surgery. 4 months later, while undergoing treatment for throat cancer, he developed pneumonia. He died on September 2, 2005, at Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He was 70. His wife Dreama and all 4 children, Patrick, Megan, Emily, and Colin, were at his bedside. He was cremated. His ashes were given to his family. Their location has never been publicly disclosed. Gilligan never escaped the island. Bob Denver vanished without an address. Number 2 is Alan Hale Jr., who played the skipper and who wore that role with a completeness that went far beyond performance. He was born on March 8, 1918 in Los Angeles, California, the son of major character actor Alan Hale Sr., and had begun his career as an infant, appearing in one of his father's silent films. He served in the United States Coast Guard during World War II from 1942 to 1945. Actual service, actual seamanship, the real thing that his character only dramatized. When he played Jonas Grumby barking orders on a Pacific island, the authority was not invented. It had been earned on the water during a war. After the show ended, Hale opened a Beverly Hills restaurant called Alan Hale's Lobster Barrel and greeted customers at the door in his skipper hat. It was either the most dignified or the least dignified thing a man could do with a television legacy, depending on your perspective. What it actually was is what it looked like. A man who accepted what his life had become and made something practical out of it. He kept visiting children's hospitals in costume long after the restaurant closed. He appeared in all 3 reunion TV movies. What most viewers never knew is that Haley kept his cancer diagnosis secret, even from his closest co-stars. By the time the illness had progressed, almost no one who had worked with him knew how serious it was. Dawn Wells later said publicly that she had no idea he was sick at all. When he died on January 2, 1990, of thymic cancer at St. Vincent Medical Center in Los Angeles, the cast learned it the way strangers learn most things, from outside. He was 68. The United States Coast Guard offered his family a full military funeral in honor of his wartime service. His wife Naomi declined. Per his own instructions, he was cremated and his ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean. The skipper went back to the water. Dawn Wells attended the service alone, representing the rest of the cast. But the most quietly extraordinary financial story from the Gilligan's Island set does not belong to any of the castaways. It belongs to the man who created them and the woman who was the only castaway who had real money of her own. Number 3 is Natalie Schafer, who played Lovey Howell, and who lied about her age so consistently and so thoroughly for so many decades that even her closest friends were stunned when her obituary disclosed the truth. She was born on November 5, 1900, in Red Bank, New Jersey, making her 63 when the show premiered, not 51 as she had told everyone for years. She was on Broadway by 1927. She was in Hollywood by 1941. She had the kind of career that predated the industry's memory of itself. Lovey Howell was written as a humorless grande dame, and Schafer specifically requested that the writers read George S. Kaufman's play Dulcie before writing her dialogue. She wanted a character who was scatterbrained and endearing rather than simply cold. The performance that resulted was kinder than anything the original outline demanded, and that kindness was what made Lovey the most quietly subversive character on the show. A wealthy woman playing dumb in a situation that called for survival, and never once losing the audience's affection. What most viewers never knew is that Schafer had spent her Hollywood decades investing aggressively in Los Angeles real estate. She was the only Gilligan castaway who was a genuine millionaire in real life. Her estate at death was estimated at $10 million, making her the richest woman ever to play a rich woman on American television. She gave most of it away. Her largest bequest, between $1.5 and $2 million, went to the Lillian Booth Actors Home, where the renovated outpatient wing was renamed in her honor. In her final years, Dawn Wells became her caretaker. Schafer died of liver cancer at her Beverly Hills home on April 10, 1991, at age 90. She was cremated, and her ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean off Point Fermin Light in San Pedro, California. Her last instruction to those handling her obituary was to disclose her real age. She had said she wanted readers to react with, "She was how old?" The Los Angeles Times complied. If these stories mean something to you, please subscribe. These videos take weeks of research. Every detail was verified. Your subscription makes the next one possible. Number 4 is Jim Backus, who played Thurston Howell III, and who came to Gilligan's Island already carrying 2 of the most distinct artistic identities in American entertainment. He had been the voice of Mr. Magoo since 1949, work that won 2 Academy Awards for Best Animated Short. He had played James Dean's father in Rebel Without a Cause in 1955, an apron scene, a domestic confrontation, a performance that became one of the most analyzed pieces of 1950s American film. He was 51 when the show premiered, a man whose resume had already outlasted most careers. He was born on February 25, 1913 in Cleveland, Ohio, raised in upper-middle-class Bratton Hall, attended Kentucky Military Institute alongside future film star Victor Mature, and studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. He summarized his career motivation with characteristic economy. "I decided to try radio as a source of livelihood because I like to eat regularly. He married Henny Backus in 1943 and stayed with her for 46 years, co-writing 4 humor books with her, including Backus Strikes Back and What Are You Doing After the Orgy? She outlived him by 15 years and is buried beside him. Parkinson's disease eventually took his work away. By the 1981 reunion film, he could only manage a brief cameo at the end. Jim Backus died on July 3, 1989, of pneumonia, a complication of Parkinson's disease. He was 76, the first of the 7 castaways to go. He is buried at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles in the central lawn section, with Henny later joining him. His flat marker describes him as a darling husband. His near neighbors at the cemetery include Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, Truman Capote, and Donna Reed. Of all 7 Gilligan castaways, Jim Backus is the only one with a traditional grave a visitor can stand beside and read. Number 5 is Russell Johnson, who played the professor, and whose real life was considerably harder than the script anyone ever handed him. He was born on November 10, 1924, near Ashland, Pennsylvania, the eldest of 6 children whose father died before he was 10. His mother sent him and 2 brothers to Girard College in Philadelphia, a school for poor orphaned boys, where he completed high school. Then came the war. Johnson served as a B-24 bombardier in the United States Army Air Forces in the Pacific. In March 1945, his plane was shot down near Zamboanga on Mindanao in the Philippines. He broke both ankles in the crash landing. He came home with the Purple Heart, the Air Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster, the Bronze Star, and the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal. He studied acting at the Actors Laboratory in Hollywood on the GI Bill and spent the next decade playing villains in westerns because that was the role his face was given before the professor gave him a different one. What most viewers never knew is that Johnson's son David died in 1994 at age 36. That loss reshaped him. He spent the following 20 years as a volunteer activist for HIV and AIDS research and fundraising, speaking publicly about the epidemic at a time when many of his contemporaries were silent. He remarried Constance Dane in 1982, and they moved to Bainbridge Island, Washington in 1988, where he lived until the end. Russell Johnson died at home on Bainbridge Island on January 16, 2014, of kidney failure at age 89. His agent said he died peacefully in his sleep. Dawn Wells wrote on Facebook that day, "My 2 favorite people are now gone. The professor passed away this morning. My heart is broken. He was cremated and his ashes were given to his family." The man who built a shortwave radio out of a coconut had in real life broken both ankles, parachuting from a B-24 over Mindanao. Number 6 is Dawn Wells, who played Marianne Summers and who in October 2018 launched a GoFundMe campaign to pay for her assisted living costs, because the show that ran in uninterrupted syndication for 53 consecutive years had paid her, by her own count, almost nothing. Her best single year on Gilligan's Island earned her approximately $50,000. The show's creator, Sherwood Schwartz, accumulated an estimated $90 to $200 million from the syndication that followed. The cast received nothing from that run. Under the network contracts of the mid-1960s, performers were paid only for the first 5 reruns of any episode. What came after belonged entirely to the production. Wells was born in Reno, Nevada on October 18, 1938, the great-granddaughter of an Old West stagecoach driver. She started pre-med at Stevens College in Missouri, before switching to a theater degree at the University of Washington. She won the 1959 Miss Nevada pageant, competed in the 1960 Miss America competition, and was working professionally in Hollywood within 2 months of arriving. She was one of approximately 350 actresses who auditioned for Marianne. She beat them all. Marianne was the show's quiet center. Pigtails, gingham, no edge, no agenda. Wells played the character without irony, and that decision was the entire performance. She was the one you actually believed in. Decades after the show ended, she became Natalie Schafer's caretaker in the older actress's final years and was reportedly left a portion of Schafer's estate. She never publicly confirmed the amount. The fans who raised nearly $200,000 for her medical costs were largely strangers. The show that made her name made someone else's fortune. Dawn Wells died on December 30, 2020 in Los Angeles from complications of COVID-19. She was 82, the last of the 7 castaways to die. One more loss in a year, already saturated with them. Her reported net worth at death was approximately $50,000. She was buried at Mountain View Cemetery in Reno, Nevada, in the Pine Rest Lawn section, sharing a headstone with her mother, Evelyn. The farm girl from the show came home in the end to the city in Nevada, where she was actually born, into the same plot as the woman who raised her. The face that appeared in syndicated reruns in every American time zone for half a century died with less money in the bank than a single afternoon's residual check from a modern hit sitcom would generate. Number 7 is Tina Louise, who was 30 years old when Gilligan's Island premiered, and who is 92 as this script is written in 2026. She was born Tina Blacker on February 11, 1934, in New York City. Her father ran a candy store in Brooklyn. Her parents divorced when she was 4. She studied at the Actors Studio under Lee Strasberg, who she has said influenced her life more than anyone else she ever encountered. She had won the Golden Globe for New Star of the Year for God's Little Acre in 1959. She was starring on Broadway opposite Carol Burnett in Fade Out, Fade In, when Hollywood pulled her away to play Ginger Grant. What most viewers never knew is that CBS casting director Ethel Wynant had pitched the role to Louise as the central character of the show, a hybrid of Lucille Ball and Marilyn Monroe, around whom the series would be structured. Louise arrived on set to discover a broad ensemble comedy in which all 7 characters were weighted equally. Her co-star Dawn Wells confirmed publicly before her death that Louise had been genuinely misled during the casting process. The anger that resulted from that misunderstanding shaped Louise's relationship with the show for the next 6 decades. She refused all 3 reunion TV movies. 4 different actresses played Ginger across those productions without her. She spent decades insisting publicly that Gilligan's Island had derailed what should have been a serious film career. She played a heroin addict on Kojak in 1974. She appeared in The Stepford Wives in 1975. She played J.R. Ewing's secretary on Dallas during the 1978-79 season. She was trying consistently to be seen as something other than what the island had made her. She earned $1,500 per episode on Gilligan's Island, the highest salary in the cast, alongside Jim Backus, and has said she still receives no residuals. The woman who was the last holdout softened at the end. When Dawn Wells died in December 2020, Louise issued a public tribute that set aside 5 decades of rivalry narrative. She told reporters she had loved doing her part, no matter what people had said about her over the years. The difficult one, the holdout, the only Ginger anyone really remembers, became the one who outlasted every co-star who ever called her difficult. As of July 2026, Tina Louise is 92 years old. She lives in a Manhattan apartment she has occupied for decades. She volunteers weekly in New York City public schools, teaching first and second graders to read, a practice she began in 1995 and has maintained for 30 years. She published a personal memoir in 2024. She made a rare public appearance on the Upper East Side in June 2025, photographed in a black leather jacket and blue jeans, her signature red hair unchanged, carrying an umbrella and 2 black bags. She told the New York Times in March 2025, "I'd like to be known for other things. She has earned that right by now. Hollywood's most reluctant castaway has outlived every co-star who ever shared that island with her, and she is spending her 90s teaching children to read. 6 of them are gone. Jim Backus in the Westwood Lawn. He shares with Marilyn Monroe. Alan Hale Jr. in the Pacific. He served in during a war. Natalie Schaefer off the coast of San Pedro, the richest woman who ever pretended to be rich. Bob Denver in a location only his family knows. Russell Johnson, the war hero, in the hands of his family on Bainbridge Island. Dawn Wells in Reno, beside her mother, with $50,000 to her name. And one of them is still here. 92 years old, Manhattan, teaching second graders to read. If you grew up watching this show, leave a comment below telling me which castaway you remember most clearly and which one hits hardest now that you know what happened to them. I read every reply.